You think silence is weakness, but your noise exposes you. Quiet is not virtue, it is camouflage, selection, and the weapon deciding who survives. You were trained to believe that being seen is being strong, that silence is submission, that if you don't announce yourself, you don't exist. This belief was not accidental. It was installed to make you legible, predictable, harvestable. Power does not fear silence. Power uses it. Noise is the language of those competing for approval. Quiet is the posture of those who already chose themselves. Most men mistake silence for morality. They think being quiet makes them good, humble, safe. That is weakness disguised as virtue. True quiet is not softness, it is compression, it is stored force, it is the deliberate refusal to leak intent, emotion, or direction. Visibility is exposure. Exposure invites judgment. Judgment invites interference. Every time you explain yourself, you lower your position. Every time you speak without necessity, you give others data, what you want, what you fear, where you hesitate. In any hierarchy, court, battlefield, boardroom, the one revealing the least controls the most. Silence is not absence, it is asymmetry. Look at how predators move. They do not signal hunger. They do not announce arrival. They wait, observe, calculate. Prey makes noise. Prey performs. Prey reacts. Predators conserve motion because motion costs energy and reveals location. The same law applies to humans, whether they admit it or not. The modern world punishes silence publicly while rewarding it privately. Loud men are applauded. Quiet men are underestimated. Underestimation is leverage. It buys time. It buys miscalculation. It creates openings. This is the first inversion you must accept. Being overlooked is not being defeated. It is being unmeasured. Silence shifts the frame from reaction to selection. When you are loud, you are responding to the environment. When you are quiet, you are evaluating it. One position is defensive, the other is sovereign. You don't speak to be understood, you speak to move the board. Anything else is indulgence. Most men speak because they are uncomfortable with tension. Silence creates pressure. Pressure exposes insecurity. The one who breaks silence first is usually the weaker one. He needs relief. He needs reassurance. He needs control restored. The quiet man needs nothing. That imbalance is felt immediately, even if never consciously named. Silence also fractures expectation. People expect noise from those who want something. When you withhold it, they project. They fill the vacuum with assumptions, often wrong ones. This is not manipulation through lies. This is manipulation through absence. The quiet path is not passive. It is active restraint. Restraint is power that has learned patience. It is the discipline to not trade long-term position for short-term expression. Most men talk themselves out of dominance. They reveal plans too early. They vent emotion too freely. They argue to feel momentarily superior, then lose strategically. Silence is how you detach your identity from reaction. When you stop narrating yourself, you stop needing validation. When you stop needing validation, you stop being steerable. This is the beginning of autonomy. Do not confuse this with withdrawal from life. This is withdrawal from exposure. You still act, you still decide, you still strike. You just stop announcing it. The loud path seeks acknowledgement. The quiet path seeks inevitability. Once you understand this frame, you cannot unsee it. You will notice who fills space unnecessarily, who explains, who defends, who performs strength instead of embodying it, and you will notice who watches, waits, and moves last. Silence is not the absence of power. It is power that has learned to hide its teeth. Silence works because the human brain is allergic to uncertainty. When information is missing, the mind does not stay neutral, it fills the gap. And whoever controls the gap controls the narrative. Noise is linear, silence is nonlinear. When you speak, you collapse possibilities into a single interpretation. You define yourself. You limit how others can read you. When you stay silent, you remain undefined. Undefined things trigger caution. Caution slows others down. Slowness creates advantage. This is the first mechanical truth. Silence forces others to operate with incomplete data. In any power interaction, data asymmetry decides outcomes. The side that knows more, reveals less, and reacts last wins. Silence is the easiest way to create that asymmetry without effort or risk. You are not lying, you are not bluffing, you are simply not donating information. Most men donate information constantly. They explain their intentions to feel honest. They reveal emotions to feel authentic. They justify decisions to feel respected. Every one of these impulses is a leak. Leaks make systems fragile. Fragile systems get exploited. Silence compresses intent. Intent held internally becomes pressure. Pressure builds force. Force, when released at the right moment, reshapes reality. Intent released too early gets neutralized. This is why powerful institutions speak slowly, vaguely, and rarely. Courts delay statements. States issue no comment. Executives deflect. They are not confused. They are buying time, measuring reactions, mapping opponents. Time is another mechanic silence controls. The man who speaks first usually does so to relieve internal tension. The man who waits forces the other side to reveal urgency. Urgency exposes weakness. Weakness invites extraction. This is true in negotiations, conflict, romance, hierarchy. Everywhere humans compete for position. Silence also destabilizes dominance games. When someone tries to provoke you, they are attempting to pull you into their frame. They want reaction. Reaction means they control tempo. Silence denies them tempo. It forces them to escalate or retreat. Escalation makes them look irrational. Retreat makes them look weak. Either outcome favors you. This is why silence feels cold. It is not emotional absence. It is emotional refusal. Another mechanism, silence reverses burden of proof. The loud man must constantly justify his presence, his opinions, his relevance. The quiet man does not. Others start justifying to him. They explain, they overshare, they seek feedback. The hierarchy flips quietly, without announcement. Notice how often people talk more around someone who says little. That is not coincidence, that is instinct. Humans seek validation from perceived authority. Silence reads as authority because it implies self-sufficiency. There is also a filtering effect. Silence repels the insecure and attracts the strategic. Insecure people need constant feedback loops. They cannot tolerate ambiguity. They will project hostility, arrogance, or weakness on your silence, none of which matter. Strategic people recognize silence as discipline. They adjust. They respect it. This creates natural selection around you. Over time, silence trains your nervous system. You stop reacting impulsively. You stop outsourcing regulation to others. You become internally referenced. This is not self-help. This is command over impulse. Impulse is what systems exploit. Command is what systems fear. Most men are loud because they are porous. Everything gets in. Everything comes out. Silence hardens boundaries. Boundaries are the skeleton of power. Understand this clearly. Silence is not about being mysterious for attention. That is still dependence. Silence is about operational superiority, about moving through environments without advertising strategy. The world is full of men broadcasting their next move. The quiet man lets others move first, then moves around them. That is the mechanism. No mysticism, no morality, just leverage.
Every hierarchy sorts men into patterns long before it rewards or punishes them. Most never notice the sorting because they're too busy performing inside it. Silence is one of the few traits that exposes these patterns clearly. There are 4 recurring archetypes. You have occupied all of them at some point. One of them survives selection. The first is the performer. The performer believes visibility equals safety. He talks early, explains often, signals competence loudly. He fills space to prove relevance. His fear is invisibility, because invisibility feels like death to him. He mistakes attention for influence. The system tolerates the performer because he is useful. He creates noise, he distracts, he absorbs pressure, but he is never trusted with leverage. He reveals too much. He cannot keep secrets, not because he is dishonest, but because silence makes him anxious. The second is the pleaser. The pleaser uses words to reduce threat. He explains himself to avoid conflict. He softens statements. He clarifies intentions so no one misunderstands him. He believes harmony is power. It is not. Silence terrifies the pleaser because silence creates ambiguity. Ambiguity creates judgment. Judgment threatens belonging, so he speaks to secure his place. In doing so, he surrenders position. He is visible, predictable, and easily managed. The third is the observer. The observer says little, watches everything. He does not rush to declare allegiance or opinion. He lets others reveal themselves first. He studies patterns, not personalities. He notices who cracks under pressure and who waits. This archetype unsettles people. The observer does not validate, does not react, does not perform. He withholds feedback. That withholding creates a quiet authority. People feel seen by him, even though he reveals nothing. The observer is dangerous because he gathers asymmetrical information. He is not yet sovereign, but he is close. The fourth archetype is the sovereign. The sovereign speaks rarely and decisively. When he speaks, it moves structure. He does not narrate his thinking. He does not justify his choices. His silence is not reactive, it is assumed. People do not wonder what the sovereign thinks, they wonder what he will do. This is the difference between influence and power. Influence persuades, power compels without explanation. Most men oscillate between performer and pleaser, believing they are being strategic. They are not. They are being legible. Legibility is what systems use to classify and control. Observers are often mislabeled as weak, shy, or passive. This is a misread that benefits them. Underestimation is camouflage. It delays targeting. It invites mistakes from louder competitors. Selection does not reward the loudest, it rewards the least predictable. History confirms this pattern repeatedly. Advisors outlast kings. Generals who speak last survive longer than those who boast. Court figures who remain unreadable avoid purges. Noise paints targets. Silence blurs them. This is the brutal truth. The system does not promote the expressive, it promotes the contained. Containment signals self-control. Self-control signals reliability under pressure. Reliability under pressure is what power ultimately selects for. Silence is also a sorting mechanism internally. When you stop explaining yourself, people either lean in or drift away. Those who demand constant access to your thoughts were never aligned with your assent. Those who adapt to your quiet understand hierarchy instinctively. You are not meant to be understood by everyone. Understanding creates equality. Power requires distance. The chosen archetype is not silent because he is afraid. He is silent because he has already decided. His words are not exploratory, they are terminal. If you recognize yourself in the first 2 archetypes, that is not a failure, it is data. But understand this, remaining there is a choice, and choices compound. Silence is the gateway trait. It is the behavioral threshold between being sorted and doing the sorting. Noise creates heat. Heat attracts attention. Attention invites inspection. Inspection leads to removal. This sequence is not moral.
It is mechanical. It has repeated across every system where humans compete for resources, status, or survival. The first to be eliminated is rarely the weakest. It is the most visible. History is explicit about this, even if modern narratives soften it. In royal courts, the outspoken advisor was admired publicly and executed privately. In military hierarchies, the boastful commander drew fire first. In political purges, the loud loyalist was always suspected before the quiet one. Noise signals ambition. Ambition signals threat. Threat triggers preemptive action. Silence, by contrast, reads as neutrality until it is too late to counter. The quiet man is not perceived as dangerous until he already controls critical ground. By the time attention turns to him, removal is costly or impossible. Human nature amplifies this pattern. People resent those who demand attention. Loudness feels like intrusion. It taxes cognitive space. Over time, resentment builds quietly. When an opportunity to remove the noisy individual appears, it is taken eagerly and justified easily. No one mourns the removal of the loud. They feel relief. Silence avoids this accumulation of resentment. It creates a low emotional footprint. You occupy space without draining others. This makes you tolerable in environments that punish friction and trusted in moments that require discretion. Predatory dynamics reinforce the same rule. Predators do not chase the quiet. They chase the exposed, the wounded, the frantic. Noise is a sign of vulnerability masquerading as strength. It says, I am here and I need to be seen. That need is exploitable. In modern systems, harvesting is bureaucratic, not violent, but the outcome is the same. The man who talks too much in meetings is passed over. The one who announces plans too early is undermined. The one who broadcasts frustration is documented. Noise creates a paper trail. Paper trails become leverage. Silence leaves no trail. This is why institutions train people to speak appropriately while quietly rewarding those who reveal the least. Public culture celebrates expression. Private power punishes it. The deeper threat is this. Noise locks you into identity. When you declare values loudly, you become bound by them. When you declare intentions publicly, you create expectations others can weaponize. When you declare emotions, you give opponents timing cues. Silence preserves optionality. Optionality is survival. It allows retreat without humiliation, advance without warning, and reversal without explanation. Loud men lose optionality first. They paint themselves into corners using their own words. There is also the contagion effect. Noisy individuals attract noisy individuals. Groups form around expression rather than competence. These groups implode under pressure because they cannot regulate emotion collectively. When collapse comes, leaders are scapegoated. Loud leaders are easy to sacrifice. Quiet figures are harder to blame. They did not promise. They did not posture. They did not incite. They remain intact while others are consumed. The final reason noisy men are harvested is envy. Visibility invites comparison. Comparison breeds resentment. Resentment looks for justification. Silence avoids comparison by denying spectacle. You cannot easily envy what you cannot measure. This is why the quiet path is safer long-term, even if it feels slower. It avoids premature attention. It delays confrontation until you choose it. It keeps your name out of mouths that sharpen knives. Understand this clearly. The world does not eliminate threats it cannot see. Noise makes you seen. Silence lets you survive until survival is no longer the goal. Control is.
Once you understand that silence is not passivity but leverage, behavior must change. Not symbolically, not performatively, operationally. This chapter is not about becoming quiet in appearance. It is about withdrawing from exposure while advancing in position. Most men misunderstand withdrawal. They think it means retreating from the game. In reality, it means stepping off the stage and into the control room. The first shift is timing. You stop responding immediately. Speed is no longer proof of competence. Speed is often panic disguised as efficiency. When you delay response, you force others to sit with uncertainty. That discomfort makes them reveal intent, emotion, urgency. Every delay is a diagnostic tool. Silence turns conversations into interrogations without asking a single question. The second shift is selective speech. You speak only when your words either alter structure or close options. If speech does not change power distribution, it is indulgence. You stop explaining decisions. Explanations invite negotiation. Negotiation invites erosion. Statements replace conversations. When you do speak, you speak in conclusions, not process. Process exposes uncertainty. Conclusions signal authority. This alone repositions you in most environments within weeks. The third shift is controlled visibility. You reduce public output, fewer opinions, fewer declarations, fewer emotional signals. This is not secrecy for its own sake, it is signal compression. You make it harder to profile you. At the same time, you increase private precision. You observe who reacts to your absence, who becomes anxious, who attempts to provoke. Absence reveals dependency faster than presence ever could. Those who try to pull you back into noise are not allies, they are regulators of the old hierarchy. Next is non-reactivity under provocation. Provocation is a dominance test. The goal is to make you leak emotion. Silence denies the test. It creates a void the aggressor must fill. Most fill it badly, overreaching, escalating, exposing insecurity. You do not win these moments, you let the other person lose them publicly. Then comes positional silence. You choose environments where your silence has weight. Silence without leverage is invisibility. Silence with leverage is command. This means quietly accumulating competence, resources, and alliances without advertising progress. You let outcomes speak. Outcomes do not argue. They settle disputes permanently. Finally, there is exit discipline. You stop announcing departures. You stop threatening withdrawal. You simply leave spaces that no longer serve position. Announced exits invite resistance. Silent exits create confusion, and confusion protects you while you reposition elsewhere. Strategic withdrawal is not avoidance, it is reallocation. Every word you do not speak is energy conserved. Every reaction you suppress is clarity gained. Over time, this compounds into something rare, internal stillness. Stillness makes you unreadable. Unreadable men are difficult to control. This is where most fail. They want silence to be noticed. They want their restraint to be validated. That is still dependence. True silent positioning accepts that no one applauds discipline. You are not trying to be respected. You are trying to be unavoidable. The moment your presence changes outcomes without explanation, you have crossed the threshold. Silence has done its work. From here, the final step is irreversible. Silence only becomes permanent power when something inside you dies, not metaphorically, structurally. Until then, quiet is effort. After the death, quiet is default. The thing that must be killed is the needy identity. This identity is not obvious. It hides behind intelligence, morality, even discipline. It is the part of you that wants to be seen as calm, recognized as capable, acknowledged as strong. As long as that part exists, silence will feel like deprivation instead of command. The needy identity equates expression with existence. It believes that if others do not see you, you are losing.
This belief was installed early. Approval became survival. Visibility became safety. Those instincts were adaptive once. They are liabilities now. Power requires self-sufficiency at the identity level. The needy identity leaks through explanation, through clarification, through the urge to correct misunderstandings, through the impulse to defend your character when it is questioned. Every defense is a confession of dependence. When you stop defending, something destabilizes internally. Anxiety spikes. The body expects punishment, exclusion, erasure. None of it comes. The system recalibrates. You realize the truth most men never face. Nothing happens when you don't explain yourself. That realization is lethal to the old identity. Killing it requires refusal, not effort. You refuse to justify. You refuse to be rushed into response. You refuse to perform emotional transparency for comfort. You refuse to rescue others from their assumptions about you. This refusal feels antisocial at first. It is not. It is sovereign. As the needy identity weakens, your internal dialogue changes. You stop rehearsing conversations. You stop imagining how you are perceived. You stop preemptively managing reactions that may never occur. Mental bandwidth returns. That bandwidth converts into presence. Presence is not charisma, it is density. When you speak less, your words carry more mass. When you react less, your actions feel deliberate. People begin to adjust around you without knowing why. This is the replacement identity forming. The new identity is internally referenced. It does not ask permission to exist. It does not seek witnesses. It does not require agreement. It measures itself against outcomes, not applause. With this identity, silence is no longer restraint. It is alignment. You no longer wonder if being quiet makes you invisible. You know invisibility is temporary and optional. You can surface when necessary and disappear when advantageous. This flexibility is power. The final severing happens when criticism stops moving you, not because you suppress emotion, but because the source of emotional dependence is gone. Praise and blame become data, not verdicts. You extract what is useful and discard the rest. At this point, silence becomes unbreakable. No insult can force speech. No misunderstanding can provoke explanation. No accusation can drag you into defense. You operate above the emotional battlefield where most men exhaust themselves. This is not emotional numbness. It is emotional sovereignty.
This is where the separation becomes permanent. Up to now, everything you've heard could be misunderstood as strategy, as technique, as optional behavior. It is not. It is selection pressure, and selection does not negotiate. Most men will hear this and adapt cosmetically. They will speak less but still crave reaction. They will withdraw publicly while performing privately. They will mimic silence without killing the need that breaks it under stress. Those men are still visible to the system. The system does not punish effort, it punishes leakage. If you are still trying to be liked while being powerful, you will be neutralized. If you are still hoping your restraint will be noticed, it will be exploited. If you are still waiting for permission to be distant, you will never have authority when it matters. This is the final inversion. The world does not reward virtue, it rewards position. Silence was never about ethics, it was about survivability, about not being harvested before you are ready, about not announcing value before you can defend it. From here, there are only two paths. The first is regression. You will return to noise under pressure. You will explain yourself when misunderstood. You will react when challenged. You will broadcast intent to relieve discomfort.
And the moment you do, the system will reclassify you as manageable. You will remain functional. You will remain tolerated. You will never be sovereign. The second path is acceptance. You accept that most people will never know what you're doing. You accept that misinterpretation is cheaper than exposure. You accept that solitude is the cost of unshared leverage. You stop correcting narratives. You stop rescuing perceptions. You stop offering clarity to those who did not earn it. This is not arrogance. Arrogance seeks witnesses. This is indifference to validation. At this level, silence becomes a border. Not everyone is allowed past it. Not everyone deserves access to your thinking. Access becomes a privilege exchanged for alignment, not demanded through familiarity. The elite mistake most men make is believing power looks impressive. It doesn't. Power looks quiet, delayed, and unresponsive until it moves, and when it moves, the outcome is already decided. There is no debate, no explanation, no emotional residue. If this unsettles you, that is information. It means part of you still wants safety through belonging. That part will keep you exposed. It will betray you at the exact moment silence was required. The unselected will call this cold. The unselected will call this antisocial. The unselected will call this fear. They always do. Those labels are pressure tactics designed to pull you back into legibility. Ignore them. Labels are what the weak use when they can't penetrate position. This is your final warning. If you continue to speak to be understood, you will never control outcomes. If you continue to explain yourself, you will always be negotiating. If you continue to fear being misread, you will always be readable. Silence is not for everyone. It is for those willing to disappear long enough to return unavoidable. Selection has already started. The only question left is whether you will adapt or remain visible until you're removed.